Mets fans, I hear you. I feel you. The pain is tough. This is not a good end to the season. This is not the New York Mets team that we envisioned coming into 2025. There's a lot of things I'm sure we want to talk about tonight. Ray's not going to be joining us. It's one of the solo lives. Doesn't happen very often, but hopefully we can get some ideas off our chest, right? Because I think there is a lot of them in this moment, right? The Mets have officially surrendered their playoff chances at this moment in time. They would not be a playoff team if the season ended today. The Reds, the Cincinnati freaking Reds, and it's the Mets' fault. This is all the Mets' fault. And I don't want to be doom and gloom. Still 6 games remaining in the Mets season. But when you have teams like the Nationals, arguably one of the worst teams in baseball, the Mets playing down to that standard, it is frustrating, it is concerning, and it is not hopeful for what you can expect moving forward. You see the title of the live, I'm sure, Mets plus odds. Dan, what does that mean? For the first time this season, the Mets are at plus odds to make the postseason. That is not good. That is not good at all. And our friends over there at BetUS, they got us plus 140 compared to minus 170. You're at plus odds to make the playoffs. It doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel normal that we're sitting here having this conversation. It's difficult. $340 million payroll, second highest in the game. This is a monstrous collapse that we are dealing with right now. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I get Ray's not here. He's usually the one who's a little bit more negative. There's time to be negative. There's time to be positive. The time to be negative is now. So we got to wake up, take these orange and blue glasses off. It'll be the best thing that we do because this team has given us no real hope for the past 3.5 months. A lot of it's false hope. I get up here every night and try to talk to you guys and always say we got to believe, of course. And in my heart, I still believe. But the road is very steep. You really have dug yourself a hole. And you didn't really have any other person to say thank you to, but these other teams that are saying it to you. So Mets did this to themselves. That's number one. I mean, the Cubs get swept the other day. Mets couldn't even do anything about it, right? Didn't even matter. Diamondbacks playing good baseball. The Giants were here for a minute. Looks like they're trailing off. Giants sold to the Mets at the deadline. The Mets bought from the Giants at the deadline. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. So I'll get to all your guys' comments tonight. Believe me, we always try to get to every single one when we can. There's a lot of things that really went wrong this past weekend. The Mets drop a series again to the lowly Nationals. That is a team that you should be sweeping. And Saturday, probably the worst loss of the year. Let's just call it for what it is. If someone can please tell me a worse loss, I'd love to hear from you. There's a couple. But I do think Saturday takes the cake. Inside the park home run, Dalen Lyle of all players. We'll get to him in Sunday's game too. Just a slap in the face. Mets tie the game. You're thinking, okay, wait. They were 0-65. They might have to rewrite the record books. Maybe they'll be 1-65 after the 8th inning. Nope. 0-66 and counting. Guess 0-67 now. It is so frustrating to see this Mets team that a lot of us believed in, still do. But how can you at this point? How can you sit up here with a straight face or at home, on your couch, in your bed? How can you get excited about this Mets team? So it's just another reminder of, hey, 1999, a lot of people cite that, of course. The Mets come back, 6-game homestand. They start the first 2 of that series losing to the Braves. Luckily, they were able to pull it out in 99. I don't know if this Mets team will. 2007, you want to talk about collapses? This would be worse than 2007. It would be. Because 7-game lead with 17 to play, right? Of course, you blow it in 08 as well, but nobody knew it at the time. 2007 had all the firepower, all the talent in the world. Pitching a little suspect, but let's be honest, that was a bad collapse. But 2025, it didn't just all happen at the end. It has been happening since basically the beginning. Now, the beginning was great. Let's call it what it is. But the Mets really were not that great, obviously, June 13th on. Up until then, 45-24, 21 games up, 5.5 game lead in the division. There was definitely mediocre play along the way. So for us to sit here and say from start to finish, the Mets are this juggernaut, nobody wants to play the Mets when they get in. That may be true, but you're limping into the postseason if you even happen to make it at this point. You really think that's going to bode well for confidence? Most of the teams that go barreling into the playoffs, same thing with college basketball, March Madness, right? The teams that are hot in those conference tournaments, they're the teams that continue and usually go through and do well because they're the hot team. They have good play behind them. What are the Mets? The Mets don't have a leg to stand on. They need crutches. Their legs are broken. So it's concerning that even if the Mets happen to make it by the skin of their teeth, what gives you belief that they're going to be able to beat the Dodgers out west? Dodgers have faults of their own. Pitching hasn't really been great, but the pitching's been healthy again. Certain parts in their lineup haven't been healthy either, but they're the Dodgers. Think they're scared of the Mets? So there is a lot of things that are running through everybody's head tonight, right? How are the Mets going to do down the stretch? Obviously, the news out of Miami today, they're going to be taking their ace, maybe who the Mets should have traded for, but it is what it is. Sandy Alcantara. He will be starting lined up against the New York Mets to end the season. So this is a thing that we look at again, right? Comparing back to that conversation 2007. Miami ended the Mets season in 07. There's a good chance it could happen again. I don't want to put that negative energy into the air. The world has done that enough by talking about the Mets 2007-2025 comparisons of these collapses. But let's call it for what it is. 2025 would be worse because you had a team, middle of the season, pretty good standing. And then all of a sudden, it's just this slow and methodical breakdown for the rest of the year. Trade deadline. Got sold a bill of goods. Go back on my Twitter. I gave it an A-. I think all of us in the moment, yeah, there's certain things. You could have got a starting pitcher, could have got another bat. But we were excited. The Mets filled their needs. They got a lefty in the pen. You know, AJ Minter goes down. You're sitting here saying we kind of need a high leverage lefty that isn't Brooks Raley. You know, Dickie Lovelady back up. We've seen all of these different lefties. Brandon Waddell. Who's going to be that other guy? We found out Gregory Soto's not bad. I think out of any of these pitchers in the deadline, okay, you can live with it, but he hasn't been great. Rogers coming over, the submariner. Love to see it. Good old Trevor. Now, he has not been as bad as advertised either, but has he been great? Has he been what he was on the Giants? A 1.53 ERA, leading baseball, most appearances? No. He has not been that guy. Would I want to keep Rogers and would I want to keep Soto if possible? I would. But we'll have those conversations in the offseason. Ryan Helsley. We got sold a bill of goods on Mr. Helsley, didn't we? 100 miles an hour, first outing of the year. I believe it was against the Braves at home. I think it was that Friday night. Could be wrong, too. Hell's bells. Throwing gas. This is unbelievable. The Mets have two of the better pitchers in the back end of a pen in all of baseball. Edwin Diaz, Ryan Helsley, the 8th and 9th inning. Mets are fine. Just give them a lead. We found that to not be true because over the course of the rest of the year, Ryan Helsley blew multiple opportunities for the Mets. It doesn't help when you have a manager. We'll get to Carlos Mendoza putting these guys in instances that they should not be in over and over again. Ryan Helsley definitely was a big part of that. So you have a great fastball. When that starts getting hit, as we saw, he couldn't rely on his secondary stuff up until probably his last outing. So it has been a struggle for Ryan Helsley, but we were sold a bill of goods. And then let's get to the final trade acquisition piece for the New York Mets. Cedric Mullins, right? The Mets did what they had to do. Everybody and their mother knew they needed a center fielder. Didn't want Harrison Bader. Oh, Luis Robert, too much of an asking price. God forbid you get Laureano. The Mets settled for Cedric Mullins, or David Stearns, I should say, settled for Cedric Mullins. He has been awful. I mean, between him and Jose Siri, center field has been atrocious for the New York Mets. Disgrace. Jose Siri can't catch a fly ball. Saw that the other night. I have no idea. Luckily, they overruled it. You have Sproat on the mound. Rough inning all around. I believe it was that third inning. I mean, it's a tough ball. You could sell me on the idea that most center fielders in baseball don't get to that ball off Josh Bell's bat, slicing away from Jose Siri in the left center field gap. Probably not. But if you get there, I guarantee you this. Most big league center fielders, when the ball is in their mitt, they squeeze it for an out. And we did not see that with Jose Siri. Ball in the right field, center field gap. Where are you going? Why are you trying to cut off the ball right at the point that you should not be cutting it at? Gets by him, it's a triple. I believe it set the Nationals triples record in a season in 9. Again, what are we doing? So it's frustrating. You get sold a bill of goods with a guy like Jose Siri. He's been atrocious. Cedric Mullins. Yesterday, what are you doing? Dalen Lyle crashes into the left field padded wall in foul ground, right? Obviously a tragic injury in the moment. Nobody really knows what's happening. Mullins, you got to run. You have to be running on that ball. Antoine Richardson, too, catches a little bit of slack here, but this is on Mullins. You got to pick up that baseball, and you got to be hauling ass around the bases. You have to. That ball's not dead. Ends up getting Mullins back to first base, and then he gets doubled off. Francisco Lindor smokes a liner. Great play by Josh Bell. But Mullins, if you were on second base, that doesn't happen. And it could be a run for all we know. Heard Evan Roberts say this on the Rico. Shout out, Evan. Maybe Josh Bell is played a different way. Maybe he's not so close to the line. Maybe he's not positioned there. These are the things that run through your head. So it's frustrating. Cedric Mullins has been awful. Center field options have been awful. Third base has pretty much worked out. Brett Beatty's been great for the most part, but getting robbed. Jacob Wilson, or Jacob Young, excuse me, playing hacky sack in center field. I mean, that could have been the dagger for the Mets, as far as we know. There is no excuse. I mean, hell of a play, tip your cap, but you get feelings and negative ones, and you're like, oh crap, that was a hell of a play. But they kicked the Mets literally and figuratively. Can't lose to the Nationals, guys. You can't. Francisco Alvarez getting robbed. Multiple moments in this series. I mean, keep going. It's frustrating. Diaz getting pulled. 7 pitches. What are we doing? And this is where it goes back to Carlos Mendoza. I think he's going to be back next year. I do. No matter how this season ends, if the Mets don't make the playoffs, I get everybody's looking for a scapegoat. I don't think it's going to be Carlos Mendoza. But it's going to be one of these coaches. You would think. I love Hefner. He's been here through the regimes. He's been a world-renowned guy. I guarantee if he leaves the Mets, someone else is going to pick him up for their pitching staff. Don't lose Hefner. Maybe it's Barnes. Maybe it's Chavez. These are names that come to mind because the hitting, that's what the Mets were supposed to be good at. And they do put up good games where they get good runs, but it's not consistent. The pitching is what it is, but I think that's more on David Stearns not bringing in the right guys. Ray and I have talked about it forever. Financially, some of these contracts, it's not good. But I don't think Carlos Mendoza is going to be the scapegoat the same way a lot of people think. I just don't see it. That's been a great stolen base team. Give that to them. Done a lot of things right in that department. But overall, I mean, this is a team that should not be fighting for the last spot. This is a team that should have the first spot in the National League East. Without question. It's frustrating. Multiple moments. And inside the park, losing on Saturday is just brutal. You got to believe, right? 3+ million fans. The Mets doing what they're doing, packing the ballpark. And I think that's where the frustration lies. Give Pete his nice round of applause, getting pinch hit in the 8th inning. Think another stupid decision. God forbid the game goes to extras. You need Pete in the 11th. It's going to be Acuna coming up. So the Pete Alonso stuff, leave it for what it is. But the fact that the Mets were booing to end the season at home, it's unacceptable. It's unacceptable. And shout out the fans that came out all year. Been to multiple games. Love Citi Field. Feels like a second home. A lot of you guys at home, too, have done the same thing. You go to the ballpark, whether it be after work, on Sundays with your family, Friday night with your boys, Saturday night with your girlfriends. You guys show out. But this team just hasn't shown up back. And until that gets fixed, the offseason is going to be one of those crazy off seasons, as it always is. Love the offseason. But the fact that we're thinking about that already, a lot of us have thought about it for weeks. It's not good. I should be thinking about my postseason ticket and where I'm going to be sitting. Sometimes there's no words, guys. I'm trying to be positive. You got to be positive, right? Still 6 games left, but the Mets are probably going to have to be 5-1. It's the reality. They're probably going to have to go 5-1, 6-0 to secure a spot. 4-2 might not get you in. 3-3 sure as hell probably won't. You're going to need some help from other teams. The Reds play the Pirates and the Brewers, I believe, to end the year. Pirates aren't playing for anything. Brewers likely have the first seed locked up. Gonna need some help. Gonna need some help, guys. This is not the same team as last year. It's just not. And that's the frustrating part of this whole thing. What went wrong? It all turned on June 13th. That's not a political statement. It factually turned on June 13th. It's just crazy. It really is. 3,281,000, wanted to get my number correct, 57 fans showed out this year. This is a team since June 13th that has been 35-52. 35-52. That's 27th worst in all of baseball. Know who's worse than them? The Nationals. 34-54. That's who you're dealing with. You're getting beat in series at the end of the year by teams that are worse than the Mets. It's the most blunt way to put it. You can make a case to me that maybe the Nationals are better than the Mets. Certainly the way the Mets have been playing of late. Something needs to change this offseason. We all know it. I brought up the coaches before. I think that's step number one, to at least look at, the brass of this team. Stearns isn't going anywhere. I think he has built he hasn't had a good year, but I do trust that he knows what he's doing from an operations standpoint. I do. It's just it takes a long time. Building a team is not an overnight thing. We all understand that. But Stearns better get into check. Siri was not a good signing. Mullins, not a good signing. Frankie Montas, never a good signing. I know Ray brings it up with Sean Manaea. I mean, you can make that case as well. A lot of it is injuries. I understand. It's really hard to blame Stearns when half your pitching staff goes down. It's no excuse. Phillies added the deadline, bring in Robertson. How has he been for them? Guy was just sitting out there. Bring in Walker Buehler. Again, some people hated the move. We'll see how that turns out. It's an arm. They brought in Bader. How'd that work out? So it's just frustrating, guys. It really is. And sometimes there's no words. This team just continues to amaze in a bad way. Do you trade a guy like one of your core pieces? That's something on the table. Do you break up this core officially? Pete Alonso is going to opt out. That's 100% fact. There is no way Pete Alonso, in basically one of his best all-around seasons, likely his best all-around season. He's never hit 270 in a season before. Guy's unbelievable what he's done in runners in scoring position. The home runs are there. The RBIs are still there. He's going to make more on the open market than he has this year. He's making 30. So why would he opt in for 24? So Pete's probably going to be looking for a payday. Multiple years. 5, 6, 7 years. Mets going to give that to him? They'll probably go 4 at the max. Maybe 5. You got to get that figured out this offseason. That's number one. I'm not for breaking up the core. Everybody says take Brandon Nimmo out of the equation. Guys, no one's taking that contract. And Brandon Nimmo's going to retire a Met. They're going to find a way. And I've said this in the past to people on spaces and stuff who bring it up. If you could have a platoon next year at DH, and it's not going to be full-time for either player, coming into 2024, what was the platoon for the Mets? Lefty-righty at DH. You had Jesse Winker and Starling Marte. If I told you the platoon at DH for 2026 would be Brandon Nimmo and Pete Alonso, I don't think a lot of people would push back. So those are the things we should be looking at. Brandon Nimmo can still play left a little bit. Pete can still play first. But you need to figure out who's staying, who's going. Can't bring back this team. You can't. If it's Brett Beatty, trade him right now. I mean, who knows? All these guys, their stocks are so volatile. Look at Jeff McNeil. Everybody wanted the guy gone. Some of us more than others. But look, his stock is through the roof. I think all teams in baseball would take Jeff McNeil off the Mets' hands this offseason. Mark Vientos has proven enough. He hasn't proven everything. Get thrown out of the game the other day, too. Don't put yourself in that situation, Vientos, please, but he did. That's another guy that teams would want, potentially. It's not going to be for much. That's kind of the problem with the Mets this year, too. They've tanked a lot of players' stocks. Look at Luis Angel Acuna. This guy coming into the year was unbelievable. Riding off that great August, great September from last year. Comes in this year, the Mets barely play him. He's more of a platoon guy. Hasn't made a lot of his opportunities. And he's looked really bad in those opportunities. Yeah, you can pinch hit him. Sure. Yeah, you can pinch run him. Sure. Great glove. Smart player. But he's not what we expected going into this season and now coming out of it. No way. It's just frustrating. There's going to be some pieces that get dealt. I can't tell you who. I don't even want to speculate who. But you have youth coming, and we've seen it with the pitchers already. Nolan McLean is an unbelievable player. Should have been up here halfway through the season. It is what it is. People say, oh, you want to lose the rookie status. Oh, you want to lose the pick. How would you feel if I told you the Mets called up Nolan McLean when they were 5.5 games up on June 12th? It's revisionist history, right? I mean, it's impossible to know in the moment that the Mets would have had such a bad second half. That would have been the time to do it. McLean, Sproat, Tong, the Mets are number one in the division. Let's go. Keep the pound down, pedal to the metal. They didn't do it. They waited. Sproat's making his first start in the first week of September against the Reds. It's way too late. Mets ran out of time. The hourglass is lost. The sand has run out. It's just they have the pieces coming up, and nobody wants to hear about 2026, but it's going to be a good team. Pitching-wise, at least. Can't tell you about the hitters. I mean, who knows? We know Lindor is going to be back. We know Soto is going to be back. Outside of that, Alvarez, surefire things. Juan Soto, Francisco Lindor, Francisco Alvarez, and Brandon Nimmo. That's it offensively. Jeff McNeil, who knows? Beatty, who knows? Vientos, who knows? Mauricio, who knows? Acuna, who knows? Siri, who knows? Mullins, probably not. Hopefully not. Marte, probably not. I mean, the 1-year deal is expiring. Are they going to bring him back? Probably not. Jesse Winker, probably not. 1-year deal. See you later. Luis Torrens, okay, I'd like to see him back, sure. Hayden Sanger, hang around the club, absolutely. See the problem here? There's a lot of unknowns with this Mets team. And there's been unknowns all year long. Lack of leadership, lack of fire, lack of personality. John Heyman had a great column this week. Go check it out. He was in the Mets dugout for the past week and a half, analyzing, talking to people. Mets have no personality. He saw it with his own eyes. Nobody in that locker room is a leader. You have individual leaders. You have cliques. You don't have one guy in that dugout that says, let's cut the crap. Let's play to the back of our baseball card because we know we can. Are these guys just checking their Venmo accounts? Checking their Bank of America statements? Checking the cash in their wallet? Just seems like all they want to do is get paid. That's what it feels like. Juan Soto's a hell of a player. He's worth basically every penny. People saying it's a down year, you are clueless and crazy. Soto does not take much blame this year for the Mets' struggles. Pete Alonso does not take much blame for the Mets' struggles. Francisco Lindor does. Because I look at him and I say, I want more out of you because I know that I can get more out of you. I love Lindor. I do. Best shortstop in the game. Second to Bobby Witt, sure. But I need to see Lindor be that leader. I don't know what he does behind closed doors, right? I don't. I'm hoping he's holding these guys accountable. But you think something would have changed. Something would have got out. A story would have got written. He would have said something or someone else would have said something. Yeah, Lindor spoke to me after that 0 for 4. He called me late at night. We went out to Fort Charles Prime Rib. There you go. Shout out Jackson Dart. We'll talk some football at the end real quick. But those are the things, right? I try to think about it like logically. And it's tough to do because we're not professional players. We're not in this locker room a lot. As much as we'd want to or much as we were in the past. But we'll be back to that. Don't worry. It's just, I got to make some money too at the end of the day, you know what I'm saying? But Lindor, is he calling Brett Beatty at night and saying, hey, or Vientos? Are they calling Nimmo? I don't know. I'm not saying you have to make everything make sense, right? That's not the point. But is that camaraderie there? Is that leadership there? I don't think so. I know we talk about Lindor and Soto. Do they get along? That's another narrative. I'm not sure. Coworkers, acquaintances, and I don't need them to be best friends, but it does feel like there is a little bit something to this story. And whether we find out in the offseason or not, who knows? Sure, we'll find out something. But it's just it's crazy. And there's been comments all throughout the season, right? Soto, the shot with Marte, he's the bona fide captain, de facto captain. You could take that for whatever you think that means. That is a shot at Francisco Lindor. It is. I mean, everybody and their mother knows Francisco Lindor could have been named captain this year. You had David Wright retirement day. It was a great ceremony. Everybody thought MLB leaks a video. Next thing you know, David's going to have his speech. Lindor's going to come out of nowhere, and they're going to pass the captainship on to him. How cool would that have been? Didn't get to see it. I think something happened in the communication, right? You got to think about it. MLB just doesn't make hype videos and leak them. They're not. And whoever, if it was an intern or something, I'm sure they've been reprimanded. We get all that. But you don't think there was some form of communication that said, oh, yeah, Lindor's our guy. And then some other people within the Mets said, whoa, 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 whoa. We did not fully agree on this. Gary Cohen had an interesting quote. He talked to Steve Serby of the New York Post. They did a Gary, Keith, and Ron interview. I believe this was this past off season. And they were talking. It was a great interview. And Gary said, and this stuck with me for a long time, the people in the Mets organization look at Brandon Nimmo as much of a leader as they do Francisco Lindor, that it would come as a shock to Gary Cohen if they named Francisco Lindor captain. Think about that. It's unbelievable. Probably go find that tweet and I'll go clip that out because Gary knew. Why didn't we? Brandon Nimmo is as much of a leader as Francisco Lindor is. That's what they're saying within the Mets organization. Do you need a captain? No, probably not. That's why I think this conversation is just crazy. It just speaks to the leadership within the Mets right now. There's not any. And that's one of the reasons you're seeing a downfall. Bad play. I don't trust this bullpen. I don't trust these hitters to hit. 5 through 9 is a joke most nights. All the trade acquisitions and guys we brought in at the deadline have just not been good. What do you do? Mets probably going to miss the playoffs. Obviously, there's still 6 games to go. You need some help. You got to have a miracle. You got to believe. They've been not a good road team. That's another thing. 31-44 on the road. Just don't get it. I don't get it. For a team that goes to the NLCS, you add Juan Soto. You have one of the greatest off seasons in Mets history. You sign a generational player. And you don't bring back the Iglesiases, the Severinos. I get some of it may have worked out in the end. Iglesias really hasn't been great for the Padres, struggling to find playing time. But think about that chemistry. JD Martinez, Harrison Bader. To an extent, you had Luis Severino holding the OMG sign. You had Jose Iglesias, the OMG guy. These are the things that just sometimes you don't know when you're in the good times until you're actually in them. It's a nice office quote. That's the problem. It was magical last year. It was an unbelievable year. Anyone that says otherwise, I mean, that's why you have to capture that lightning in a bottle and not let it slip away. And the Mets did. Let's go to your guys' comments. I know there's a bunch of you in here just kind of rambling away. We got Ray checking in from Metcast. We'll go to him in a minute. We'll go to Ray in a minute. I want to cue. Oh, let's go. Guys, see the comments. Appreciate everybody in here. Let's go to my partner, Ray from Metcast, tuning in. Let's go, Ray. How are you? Live on vacation in Florida. You see the connection a little, it's, yeah, it might be cutting out for Ray. We'll get those technical difficulties figured out in just a minute. But yeah, let's go to some of these comments, guys. Starting us off, StreamYard starting us off. Jose, make this a little bigger for you guys. How do you say that? Josu? Excuse me for my pronunciation. 19 and 23 versus the Nats, Braves, Marlins, and Pirates. There you go. Makes sense. Makes sense. It's not good. And here we go. Ray, check it. Yes, sir.
Lord, oh my, Dan. I'm trying to enjoy my vacation, but the New York Mets always seem to find a way to screw this crap up. Earlier in the year, I go to spring training. I make sure to go to spring training the first week. When we get news of Sean Manaea going to be down, Alvarez is going to miss a ton of time, but we got to see Soto right off the bat. Now we get to the trade deadline where it's like, I'm sitting by the pool earlier today trying to figure out where the heck did all of this go wrong? And it is so simple in my eyes. I'm like, the trade deadline. We all knew we had an issue with starting pitching. And the grand scheme plan, let's be real, it was bringing up these kids, and that is never a recipe for success. How many teams can you go around the major league level and say they brought up 3 pitchers, starting pitchers, in the final month and a half in the season, and they went far in the playoffs? Find me the team. We knew Sean Manaea's washed. He looks even worse yesterday, allowing 3 earned runs right off the bat. Kodai Senga's in AAA still, and he's getting lit up in AAA. David Peterson is a hitting machine. To think that our top 3 guys, and 4, dare I say, add Montas to that because the Mets paid him to be a number 3 starter on this team. Our top 4 starters have to this point had catastrophic seasons. And where's the accountability with this staff? I'm always hearing Mendoza to go after the pitching. He's gone after Senga. He said Peterson's got to be better. He hasn't really gone after Manaea as much, but it's like when the accountability needed to be of the hitters, where it's like the second we get down 2 or 3 runs, we feel as though the game is over. That shouldn't happen when you're spending $350+ million and putting it all into hitting. You have Alonso, highest paid at his position. Soto, highest paid at his position. Lindor, top 5 paid in his position. Nimmo, top 5 paid in his position. You go around those 4 guys, they should all be of the best hitters in all of MLB. Obviously, Soto has been the second half of the season. Lindor had that really long 2-month stretch where he didn't hit at all. I just doesn't seem to mesh this team. Been saying this since the beginning. What's going on in this clubhouse? I got a feeling it's an accountability issue. I got a feeling that when earlier in the season, Met fans are clamoring for Francisco Lindor, including myself, I'm just as guilty. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm not. But when we're all clamoring for him to be named the captain, maybe everybody in the clubhouse didn't feel the same way. Maybe that is why Juan Soto came out and said Starling Marte is the leader of this clubhouse. Well, you just attested to find out that people are saying, well, Brandon Nimmo is pretty much the same leader as Francisco Lindor. That is an issue because when I view a leader, I view guys like, and I hate going across the street, like Aaron Judge across the street. He has no problem yanking guys in the tunnel and saying, this is the Yankee way. We do not stand for this crap. But now, like, I'm thinking more with a clear head. Take out the second in MVP last year. The clear head in me says, there's no way Francisco Lindor could be the captain of this team, Dan. He gave the middle finger to the fans just a couple of years ago. That's not captain material. It's just not. I think we are captainless. And we could sit here and blame Mendy all we want. And listen, I'm the first guy to get on Mendoza. Everybody knows that. You know that. Our fans here know that. Our Metcast crew members know that. But at the end of the day, David Stearns decided to put a rookie manager behind a championship level team. And that is always the risk. For years, when we had the Mickey Callaways, the Luis Rojas, we always said they didn't know what they were doing when it came to big spots. They made the same mistake over and over again. Why would Mendy be any different? You look at Mendy, two-run game, Ryan Stanek's coming in, Ryan Helsley's coming in constantly in two-run games. And then we sit here and scratch our heads saying, how do we know that they're going to blow it? Like I tweeted out 2 nights ago or 3 nights ago, the second Stanek comes in the game, I said, up, good night, everybody. It doesn't matter we have a lead because we know what is going to happen. And those are the growing pains of having a young, inexperienced Mendoza. You can sit here and say, hey, he was a 20-year bench coach for the New York Yankees, all we want. But at the end of the day, you know it just as much as I do, Dan. It's different when you're the guy pulling the strings. It's different when it goes wrong, you're not the one in front of the cameras. We all have sat here and said, everybody watching this live, including myself, we are tired of the same BS answers from Carlos Mendoza. We got to be better. You know, this is the nobody picked this up, and I tweeted this out earlier today on my rant that I posted over on YouTube. I have a big issue when I keep hearing Mendoza say, we have the talent, man. The talent is too good not to make the playoffs. When a manager is saying that, that tells me you're the issue. What do you mean the talent's too good not to make the playoffs? We're clinging to the last place seed when we had a 5-6-7 game division lead, and now we're going to be 10 out. That's inexcusable. And if this team misses the playoffs, I hate to say it, Mendoza's got to be gone. And dare I say Stearns, but he's not going anywhere because of the contract. But David Stearns, look, I can't give him credit for Soto. I want to partially, fine, whatever. But outside of that, if you thought Alonso was going to be this good, you should have given him more than 1 year. Sean Manaea, lightning in a bottle, you can't pay him like an ace. Give him a long-term extension. Giving Frankie Montas 2 years, guaranteed, inexcusable. Griffin Canning, another fit starter. AJ Minter, you didn't fill enough holes in the bullpen. We went B-team shopping because I get it. We shopped and we got Soto, but this was supposed to be the year. And at the deadline, we heard it from ESPN. The New York Mets had the best farm system in baseball, and what did they do? We upgrade. We got some bullpen help, but where we needed it the most, guys like Zach Gallen, who Arizona would have given pretty much taking anything for that guy, was available. We know Alcantara was available. Whether or not you're going to get him or not, we know they were listening. Edward Cabrera was available. Whether you're going to get him a lot, we know they were listening. At the end of the day, David Stearns single-handedly failed this team. Mendoza wasn't the right guy right off the rip. Regardless of last year's success, a great manager has success year after year. There's a reason why you hear guys teams still consulting Joe Girardi, Buck Showalter, all of those types of guys. Terry Collins at an advisory role, because it's one thing to do it once, it's another to be consistent with it. And this team was single-handedly failed because Stearns chose the wrong guy at the helm. Because I truly sit here and say, I don't think Mendoza has the you-know-what to discipline a guy like Juan Soto, Francisco Lindor, Pete Alonso, Brandon Nimmo. You could bring a rookie manager in when we were a young team. You want to go back a couple of years when we're trying to bring up a lot of the young guys, that's fine. But on a World Series contending roster, you have a guy that never played at the major league level as a first-time manager. He's going to sit Juan Soto down and tell him, what's up? Give me a break. That's what I have. My little rant for the day.
Ray, thank you. Ray checking in from Florida. Always good to have him on. Ray, is this team making the playoffs?
I don't know. Our friends over at BetUS, who's one of our sponsors over on X, they're giving Mets fans plus odds, which scares the you-know-what out of me. When I look at BetUS and they're like, oh, they're willing to throw money at you to bet the Mets to make the playoffs, that should scare you because Vegas doesn't lose. They just don't. Vegas doesn't. The house always wins. So when you look at plus 140, plus 120 for the Mets to make the playoffs, that means there's a 60% or greater chance the Mets miss the playoffs at a $400 million payroll nearly. I guarantee you, combine the salaries of the Diamondbacks, the Reds, Milwaukee, all of these teams, they don't come close to what the Mets are paying out these guys. That is a major concern. We showed up this year, Dan, 3+ million fans in the stands, and the product is complete BS. I don't know. What do you think? Are they making the playoffs, Dan?
I can't even tell you, Ray. I don't know. I don't think so. And that's the
Oh, man. Oh,
that's the hard part at this point. I want to believe. I still believe. There's just a part of me that says you have to go 5-1 at this point to make the postseason, and the Mets have not shown that they can do that. So, yeah, until I see it, I'm not going to believe it, and I'm already starting to get my hopes down to kind of soften the blow that is going to be the Mets missing the postseason. But I hope not.
how do you explain that? You added Juan Soto, and look what you got out of Brett Beatty this year. Full time, he's hitting almost 30 homers with a 265 plus average and killing it in the month of September with Juan Soto. How is this just anything but justifiable? If you're Steve Cohen, Dan, what are you saying to David Stearns? Let's run it back. Are we really there? Hey, Sean Manaea, $25 million. Next year and the year after that. Frankie Montas, $17.5 million. Canning's gone. Peterson, what do you could expect out of him? Final year of arbitration. Was he going to get $10 million? You're going to have the same guys you're going to run it back with? Kodai Senga's got 2 years left on his contract. Like, think about this mess David Stearns has put us in. Absolute mess. This is not supposed to be Sandy Alderson and Billy Epler. This is worse. Your payroll's double. There's no Max Scherzer or Justin Verlander here. It is just blown my mind that in a league where nearly half the teams in baseball make the playoffs, we're going to miss the playoffs. That's like the Knicks missing the playoffs next year, Dan. It's exactly what it is. Imagine that. Imagine the Knicks go under 500. You'd be like, what? A second year together, we're adding Juan Soto. You guys add Karl Anthony Towns. You're going to miss the playoffs. That's what it is. You can easily cross-reference that. To me, it just doesn't make any sense. It's like the Packers missing the playoffs. Let's add Micah Parsons and miss the playoffs. It doesn't make sense. And there needs to be accountability. And one thing I've always said about Steve Cohen, he will rain hell when it comes to accountability. And I hope he does this offseason. Look, we always heard one thing when he took over the team. What was it, Dan? He had trouble interviewing certain executives and managers because they were scared that Steve Cohen would hold them to an unrealistic expectation. Well, the expectations for this year's Mets is simply make the playoffs with a $400 million payroll. That's what it is. It's not crazy. And if you miss those expectations, hell has to come down. Dan, I don't know if we missed you.
Yeah, I'm here. There we go. Sorry, guys, a little technical stuff on my end. Yeah, Ray, it's insane.
Dan,
You're
what
right.
happens if we miss the playoffs? You, for a while, were telling me you don't think anybody goes anywhere, but you're blowing a 7-game division lead, and at the time you're looking, that's like a 12-game lead in the wild card.
Yeah, people have to go. People have to go. Players have to go. There has to be decisions made. Again, I don't think Mendoza's going anywhere. Stern's not going anywhere. I think like a guy like Chavez takes the blame because you're out
What
on.
about Hefner?
I don't think Hefner takes
You're
the blame.
looking at a world-class collapse when it comes to starting pitchers. Like, something we've never seen. Find me the first place team that has 4 guys with a 6+ ERA in the second half. I
Yeah,
don't know if you ever find it.
no, that's the issue. That's the issue. This pitching has been awful. I don't trust anybody in this bullpen. And it's a problem. And you take guys out way too prematurely. I think one of the other daggers taking Diaz out after 7 pitches. What are you doing? We
And
talked about
Mendoza's
that.
laughing in our faces, bro.
It's
That
insane.
answer, I almost destroyed my phone, and I'm not one of those people, Dan. That answer, well, he's a one-inning guy. What is funny, Carlos? You're getting your ass kicked every night. What is so funny? These guys, Dan, walk around the clubhouse. I'm watching Lindor go 0 for 5 and suck it up with the catcher. He's laughing. I can't believe this.
It's
Captain
insane.
My, you know what?
It's insane. And you're dealing with a guy who these players probably don't care because they don't have a manager who really cares. Obviously Mendy does, but he's not instilling day after day, you have to be better, you have to be better. He's just saying, "Oh, we have talent in the room. We believe in our guys." I mean, who do you believe in at this point, Mendy? We don't believe in you. So it's tough, man. It's
That's why, Dan, that's why when we heard Steve Cohen last offseason, what did he say when they said, oh, well, could Kyle Tucker, could all these guys be involved getting big? And I know why he said it. He said, you want to be careful how many players you lock up long term because, it not only locks up guys in their positions, which blocks other players, it can have other consequences. Those other consequences Steve was talking about is guys getting complacent. Lindor is here for 5 more years. Nimmo's here for 5 more years. Now, I'm not going to get on Soto, have an unbelievable season, but those are the guys you look to take off to that next level. Like Nimmo went from a guy with a 380 to 405 on base. Now he's going to be in the mid to low 300s. I don't want you hitting 25 home runs. And that's another thing, Dan. Nobody on this team, and that, I said it a million times. Cliff Floyd always used to say it. He loved coming to the ballpark, knowing where he was going to hit it. It gave him a sense of calm. I feel like no one on this team knows what their role is. The fact the other day Juan Soto tried to lay down bunts again. What are we doing? Why is Juan Soto should never, ever try to lay down a bunt. And the first thing Keith Hernandez says is, oh, well, they're saying go ahead. We'll give you first base. You don't want that. You're giving in to the enemy there. Having the same lineup every day defines roles. And we were going like this for so long. Mark Vientos having one of the worst Septembers I've ever seen as a Mets fan, consistently being thrown in the 5-hole as Pete Alonso's protection. That can't happen. No account. Why is Brett Beatty, the guy who's hitting 330 plus in the month of September, hitting 8th or not hitting it or not playing at all? You have a bench full of guys in Mauricio and Acuna and Mullins and Siri. Not one of them can hit 200 right now. How about that? Hey, Stearns, you knew you had a crappy bench. You didn't add one bench bat at the deadline. We said it for how long, Dan? Where's my Kelly Oubre? Where is my, those types of guys? Kelly Johnson, whatever. And Juan Uribe. We said we needed those types of guys here, and they didn't address that whatsoever. So we have a terrible bench. Oh, you want to get Brandon Nimmo off his feet? We can't do that because we're throwing Jose Siri, who I don't know what he did yesterday, but I'm assuming he didn't get a hit because he never does. 0-63 after the weekend. Give me a break. Cedric Mullins, another catastrophic addition to this team. And guys, look, we could say we call for it all we want. We are a podcast. David Stearns is being paid $10 million a year to make those decisions, and everything he's touched has turned to stone.
That's it.
I know I'm
Just
going off. It's just
no,
so
please.
angering, bro.
Please just don't have a heart attack on vacation. But as long just yes, and right,
Now I can go live on vacation until
yeah,
they lose tomorrow, and I'll lose
yeah,
my what again.
that's it. That's it, right? It's frustrating. This team is just crumbling before our eyes, and there's really no words. I don't think any of us. You've said it very great. A lot of what you said is true. This team just hasn't been playing well, and the decisions that have been made are just crazy from a financial standpoint, not bringing back certain guys, not putting guys in certain positions. This team can't bunt, and then the players that shouldn't be bunting are bunting. Even the other night, too, when Marte didn't advance on the one in front of the plate, it's like, I get it's tough. It's a pop-up. You got to be sure, but you got to be halfway, Marte, or at least preferably on third base. But it's insane, right? It really is. There's a lot of blame to go around, and you just hope that this team somehow makes the playoffs because Mets fans aren't going to hear the end of it for years. And
Oh
it's
my gosh, you should see my DMs with the Yankee fans.
yeah,
A lot of blocks.
yeah, I'm sure, Ray. I'm gonna get some of these comments if you want to hang around, if you want to go. It's
Sure,
up.
I got a few minutes. Yeah, I
Yeah,
can't see any of the comments, so I'll leave it up to you.
sure. So let's start off here with member Buzz checking in. Too many divas on this team. Yeah, I mean, could be. You got a lot of them, that's for sure. So Goomba
No
check.
veteran leadership. That's the issue, in my opinion.
Yeah. Goomba says this wasn't a collapse. The team built a huge lead and for almost 4 months have been playing some of the worst in baseball. They aren't good at all. Goomba, I think that's part of the collapse. It's a slow burn, and that's what makes this so difficult. And
Death by 1,000 stabs or knives, whatever. What is it called?
yeah, death by 1,000 paper cuts, right?
Yeah, there you go.
It's insane. That's what we're dealing with. It's not 7 games with 17 to play. Everything just blows up at the end. You couldn't make the playoffs with an expanded playoffs. It's like your point with the Knicks. I mean, 8 teams make the playoffs and you have 4 play-in teams as well. It's like you got to make the playoffs. I mean, geez. Crazy. So we'll keep it moving along. G Money checking in. What's up, Dan from Metcalf? Wanted to run something by you and Ray. Could it be possible for the New York Mets that has no identity of who they are as a team?
What
Yeah,
I just said.
right.
Guys show up to the ballpark. No one knows what spot they're going to be in.
It's crazy.
I mean, Dan, there's no way you could wake up tomorrow and tell me who the center fielder is.
No,
You can't.
no.
And you traded for one at the deadline.
Put Jeff McNeil out there at this point. I mean, there's really, it's insane. It really is. Diaz is spraying Fabuloso in his empty locker right now. Truman says, trust Stearns based on what? Yeah, I mean, there's not much to trust Stearns on. That's the issue, too. He hasn't really shown
He
you
lost
much.
a lot of credibility this year.
Yeah. The only thing I could say is look what he left the Milwaukee Brewers with. I mean, he's built a solid foundation there for them to win for a long time, but it's a tough sell for a lot of people. Lindor is not a leader, Buzz says. I completely agree. He's just there to smile. Lindor is not a leader, Liz says.
Which is fine. Lindor could be there, but you gotta get somebody in here. And to think that Soto, at 25 years old, going into 26th season, is gonna come in and just be this leader. No, you gotta get guys in here that are under contract, like a Marte, maybe a few years younger, who could produce consistently, not be great, but think about what Mark Hanna did for this team. He played a certain role. I'm not saying he's got to be great, but we have literally youth all over this place and inexperience all over this place. Like Brandon Nimmo should be that guy in essence, but he's just simply not. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong.
No, it's true. Henley checking in. I would make Terren's full-time catcher and try to use Alvey as trade bait for some team that overvalues him. He has just zero baseball instincts. I don't know how you feel. I think Alvarez is the future catcher of the Mets, Ray.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the big thing you got to take into consideration, as much as we all love to spend Uncle Steve's money, Alvarez is making no money for a long time and he's under control. You can't have 30, $40 million players at every single position, especially if we want to get some front end pitching in here. I mean, that's my biggest scare. And we'll get into it with our off-season shows, but my biggest scare is that, oh, well, Manaya's getting the surgery on his elbow. We expect him to be back to full strength. We're not going to have Montas, so we'll get a couple back-end guys. We'll get some more Tyler McGill type guys. We expect Peterson to have a bounce back. He's looking to get paid in the offseason and let it ride. And we get some, we go get Nick Pivetta, some guy like that. Like,
right.
Let's be real. Michael King should be a New York Met going into next year. Or look, a lot of people are down on Dylan Cease. He's the kind of guy that's got great stuff. You give that 3-year contract to, and then you use the pitching lab to maneuver a guy like that. That's what I'm looking at. I'm not looking for an ace. They're not going to bring in an ace, but guys that have ace potential that have done it. That's where I'm looking to put all my chips in.
Yeah, 100%. Henley checking in again. BS. If you want to win so bad, players like Pete Alonso would be practicing first base throws for hours before each and every game. I'm sure he is. I've seen that too with my own eyes. Like he is out there working. But again, there's been a lot of costly throws, not even from guys like Pete. Pete is a separate conversation. He has had some bad throws to first, but I think a lot of the Pete throws have been amplified in 2025. We were not talking about Pete Alonso's throws to first base in the same way that we are this year as we have in years past. It was always his turns to second base. And people don't talk about those anymore because he really hasn't messed those up. So I feel like it's a lot of recency bias. We always move the goalpost on Pete. He is a great defender. Great defender. And is he going to win a Gold Glove in his career? Probably not. But he is one hell of a defender. So
He's drastically improved, especially his scoop rate. That's always going to be his weakness. I mean, there's a reason why he doesn't win a Gold Glove, and it's because of his throwing. It's just something you got to live with. I mean, if the guy's going to hit 270 to 280 and 35 to 45 home runs, you'll live with that. That's what it is, and eventually you move him to DH. And I think if the Mets are going to go long term with him, I think that's what it is. I think they'll give him one more year, maybe a year and a half, and start transitioning him to DH because the Mets are high on Ryan Clifford. Unless they get a crazy offer, a Tariq Skubal becomes available potentially. That's the guy that I think the Mets should be all in on this year. You trade the farm for a guy like that and extend him long term. Have him be the horse. Have him be our Garrett Cole, our Max Fried. He's still in his 20s. He's the guy you go out and get this offseason, but we'll address that another day.
definitely. Get to a couple more and get out of here. Andre checking in. Soto and Alonso were Cohen moves. Imagine if we didn't have them. I don't trust Stearns. Every GM makes bad moves, but when you make 6 to 7 bad moves that blow up in your face, you have to go. Yeah, I'm not firing Stearns. I get what you're saying. It's
Yeah, it's a
it's
pipe dream.
it's similar with the Giants right now, like cross-sport reference. Like Joe Shane has built a great team. Anyone that's watched the Giants' first 3 games can tell you that. They had a lot of talent. They should have beat the Chiefs last night. Brian Dable doesn't know how to utilize these guys and get the most out of them. That's why Joe Shane most likely might stay at the end of the season and Brian Dable might go. So I think it's similar with the Mets. You could say Mendy could be the guy on the hot seat versus David Stearns, but I don't think Stearns is going anywhere.
My hot take is I think Mendy and Hefner are both hiatus out of here.
Yeah.
If
No,
they miss. If they don't if they make it losing the wild card, they'll both be back.
yeah.
That's just a fact of, life.
Michael checking in. If Pete goes to DH, what happens to Nimmo? I think it's a similar thing, kind of that lefty-righty platoon. Ray, I was saying before, we went into 2024, Winker and Marte is our left-right platoon at DH. If I told you the left-right platoon in 2026 was Nimmo and Alonso,
Not
part-time,
26. It has to be beyond, because think about it. Pete's gonna get around 30 million and Nimmo's making 20. You're not paying a DH 50 million bucks.
probably not yet, but eventually that'd be the
I
goal.
think, and remember, that's what, Dan, we've spoken about this in the past for Met fans that all that want Alonso back. I think that's a big reason why Stearns is so reluctant to go very long term. The writing is on the wall. And everyone says, oh, you'll just eat Nimmo's contract. They're not going to do that. I see people commenting on X today on Metcast. They'll just eat Manaya's contract this offseason. No, they're not. We got to live in reality. Just because he did it to get better prospects doesn't mean he's always going to do it. Cohen's losing money again this year. And a big reason why I think they're not going to bring back Alonso, and I've been very consistent with this, not saying I don't want him back, I want him back, but they're looking down the line. Carson Bench, Jet Williams, those guys are knocking on the door to be at the major league level probably at the beginning of next season. And if they're here, Nimmo's got to be DHing, and they got to get him off his feet. Dan, he's clearly lost range in the outfield. His reaction is slower. His foot speed seems a little slower. I don't know what Baseball Savant says in regard to that, but I think the move is going to be Nimmo's going to play a little left, a little right, and a lot of DH going forward, which then there's no room for Pete. Because if Pete's locked up for 5 years, you're not going to pay a part-time DH for 3 years, $30 million on top of Nimmo's $20 million he's got for 5 more years.
It's insane, Ray. Quickly before we leave, we're going to do our little put up or shut up segment brought to you by Metcast.
The Mets season is over.
So there you go. Great Frank intro there. I want to go to this final comment. Actually, we'll go to 2 final comments, but Daniel checking in. I'd be looking to sign a guy like Ranger Suarez this offseason. Put up or shut up, David Stearns. You have to go out and acquire some more talent. Pitching is probably where you need to target it, but at this point, I'd say anything at this point. Just if it's a bat, if it's a glove, you can't rely on strictly youth, and you can't rely on guys that we've talked about with Clay Holmes, Sean Manaea. You need to bring in another arm. Framber Valdez comes to mind potentially too. Zach Gallen.
Would you want him, though? Would you want Valdez here after what we saw him do to his catcher?
Right, yeah, probably.
For anybody who doesn't know, he intentionally drilled his catcher, and it's so obvious. It was disgusting, and former Major League players condemn it all over the place. Not for a team that's leaderless. I don't know if I want him in the clubhouse.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I just make a trade, do something, bring in a big time arm. We missed the boat on Garrett Crochet. I'll die on that hill. That the
Max Fried was the move, and I said it all off season.
Yeah. We'll go to the final comment. Burnsy, Jimmy checking in. We appreciate you. Put up or shut up. Pete will be back. The higher ups know you can't replace Pete's proven production unless you are a Schwarber or a Bellinger, who may ask for the same money. Burnsy, I completely agree. Jimmy, we would not be here even in a playoff spot without Pete Alonso. He's been unbelievable for the Mets. I do think he'll be back. We'll talk about the price ranges and all that stuff in the offseason, but
I think there's a better chance they sign Bellinger than Pete.
Ooh, you heard it here first, everybody. I appreciate the time, Ray. Thank you for joining in. We'll get out of here 8:45. Thank you all for joining and tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll see what happens. And Ray, enjoy your rest of your vacation too, man.
Let's go, Mets. Get in the effing playoffs. See you later.
Let's go, guys. Thank you. Peace. God bless. Woo, we out of here.